First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you can never really know what's up next.
Hello, Davie Portman here from upNXT, the Patreon, patreon.com/upNXT. And we have once again had another WWE pay-per-view. We have just finished the watch-along for TLC 2020, and I am not here today with my usual partner, Braden Harrington, but I have brought some friends, yes, friends, with me today to talk all about tables, ladders, chairs, and fire. Oh my! First of all, I want to introduce host of Shot in the Dark, free show every Wednesday on our Patreon, host of Zombipod. You may know him from all the reports he does for post-wrestling. Of course, it is Mr. Cno Evil.
There is no better way to end off 2020 than tables, ladders, chairs, and fire. Fire. Much fire.
It was lit. The show was fire. The chat was fire. And also, we have host of Unnecessary Conversations on Instagram Live, host of Chocolate Croissants, and you may know him from our Surviving Quarantine pod we did earlier in the year. He's former ROH employee, Jordan Goodman. Jordan, how are you doing, my friend?
Yes. As a child, I never thought that would be a biography that would precede me on a live podcast during a global pandemic, but I'm happy to be here, and we just watched someone get set on fire.
We did, yes. We watched quite the pay-per-view today. Now, I think all our kind of levels of interest kind of vary with, I'd say, main roster WWE. All of us have our ear to the ground. I'd say, Jordan, I've brought you in today, and you are kind of like the Braden. You don't necessarily watch main roster WWE every single week, but you kind of keep up to date through John Way and websites and maybe Twitter and YouTube clips. What was your interest going into this pay-per-view tonight?
I had an interest, and the one cousin I've been quarantined for most of this year with, if it weren't for me doing this, I would have watched it with him. But yeah, and really, I DVR everything. I'll typically fast forward through stuff, but in the past couple months, it's definitely been the least interested I've been in WWE in a while. So I definitely was going to watch this. I don't know if I would have watched it live or all of it, but I'm glad I did, and I had fun doing it with you guys.
And why do you think that is? What is your lack of interest? Because, I mean, I see behind you, you've got a picture of the Rockers. You've got, like, old school Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels. You're a fan of wrestling for a long, long time. So what is it that's kind of caused your dip in interest?
There's unlimited content for us to consume, for one. And for me, I don't feel much momentum or buzz or just an energy around WWE's product right now. I think AEW is riding a nice wave of momentum. And even though I don't watch all of Dynamite each week, if I'm going to choose one or the other, right now it's that.
And do you think that's down to the talent, the creative, the kind of style of wrestling, a mixture of all three? What do you think the reason is behind that? Why would you choose AEW over WWE?
Definitely not talent. There's no lack of talent at WWE. I'd perhaps argue that it's the most talented roster, top to bottom, they've ever had. I just think it comes down to overall presentation, the creative philosophy, and lack of compelling, consistent storylines.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you there. Because I have had a bit more time on my hands, I'm watching more main roster WWE than I usually do. Normally I dip in and out, I listen to John and Way, and I always watch the pay-per-views. I'm always going to watch the pay-per-views, but they've definitely been in a slump for quite a while now on the main roster, which is really weird because I think you look back at this year's worth of pay-per-views and Siino, I'll bring you in here, but I'd say main roster pay-per-views have been incredibly consistent this year, which is so strange when you consider the TV we're getting.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, no matter how bad Raw SmackDown could be, I feel like the pay-per-views, even how weak the storyline might build to that, you're still gonna eventually get a good show. And I feel like I had this with this. Like we had a pretty good build-up with Owens and Roman Reigns. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like no matter how bad Raw can be, or even SmackDown has been kind of hit or miss, the pay-per-views have always seemed to deliver. They feel like their main focus is straight wrestling. You don't really get these like backstage segments or silly Miz Christmas stories in the ring, whatever the case may be. But the pay-per-views have always been pretty consistent. So I feel like no matter how good the story has been built, the pay-per-views can always be something to look forward to.
Part of me wonders if they're almost deliberately giving us all these non-finishes every single week, because when it comes to a pay-per-view, it seemed pretty consistent for the last few that we are getting clean finishes, and even in times when we're not expecting it. Like we saw, was it Keith Lee beat Randy Orton earlier in the year? And I remember in the watch along we were super surprised by that. And we are just getting kind of a 2.5-3 hour event where we're getting 6 to 8 solid matches, getting enough time and getting clean finishes. And funny, isn't it? Like wrestling fans, that's kind of all it takes. We just want to see a rivalry and want to see a winner.
But what I've noticed, it can become a slippery slope. I typically would watch at least Raw each week, I think out of habit and the sense that I didn't want to be out of the loop. But as I spent more time not watching, I realized I'm not missing that much, and I can just go pay-per-view to pay-per-view and feel satisfied. And with me breaking that rhythm of routine, I think it's going to be a lot harder for me to get back on board to watching week to week.
I was going to ask you, like, are you enjoying the matches more that you don't have like this weeks of build up to it? Like you don't have all this like extra baggage to it. Like, are you enjoying the matches more for what they are, actual wrestling? Or do you feel like you're missing out a lot from not keeping up week to week?
I think I'm missing out on some of the nuance and the smaller, I guess, beats from week to week that may pay off in a pay-per-view match. Obviously, that's the job of the commentators to fill people like me in. Tonight, it was hard to get an assessment of that, given that I was listening and engaging with you guys and was far more interested in what we were doing with the Twitch community than what was coming out of my TV set.
I think it's an interesting point you make, though, by sort of divorcing yourself from the main roster. You might be missing out on the nuances, but you also don't have fatigue. Like we're going into that New Day Hurt Business match and we're going, well, you got to put the titles on Hurt Business now because this has been their 8th attempt at those titles for the last however many months, and we've seen this match so many times. So I think WWE have always done such a great job at their video packages as well. So you kind of just need to tune in every 4 weeks. You know the talent. As you said, it's probably the most talented roster they've ever had. The depth is ridiculous. And you go, oh, it's this guy against this guy. I like these guys. You watch a very well-produced 2-minute video before the match and you're kind of ready to go. And you don't necessarily have to have the pain of watching Raw and SmackDown every week. Because, as I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed these pay-per-views this year. And I think maybe my perception of WWE may be different if I stay off Twitter and don't hear all the complaints every week and just watch a special event every month. But unfortunately, it is the TV that drives their business. That's where they get their money from their sponsors and the TV rights and all that. And it's something they desperately need to fix. Jordan, you had something you wanted to add there.
Well, I was going to say, to the point of having a talented roster, when I turned on this kickoff show shortly before we went live on Twitch, I see Daniel Bryan come out, and then I see Big E come out, and I see Sami Zayn. These are world-class professional wrestlers that were presented, at least to me this evening, in a nothing match.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, and I think... But I also think it's maybe been to the advantage of these pay-per-views this year that we haven't felt the need to cram all these people on every single show. So kind of this month's focus is your AJ Styles, your Randy Orton, your Drew McIntyres, and next month's focus might be your... Like we didn't have Jeff Hardy at all this month, whereas we had Jeff Hardy and Sami Zayn just the previous month. And I think that is actually to the betterment of the company by not feeling the need to put on 14 match cards involving every single person. It somewhat makes you look forward to the next Daniel Bryan match.
I agree, but when, a Shinsuke Nakamura and a Cesaro are presented as mere filler, maybe every other month, then eventually they're just going to feel like that. It waters it down, and it's diminishing returns. And I'd rather just not see people like, for instance, Jeff Hardy, to your point this evening, on TV in a more diminished role.
Siino, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird to see like he said, like Big E and Daniel Bryan in the kickoff show. I mean, it's not even a point where it's like get them on the show to present yourself to fans, because there is no fans. Like how many people are still watching the kickoff show right now as it is? Like I feel like not that many are. So it's kind of like in a weird way, it's a way to get them on the show. But I feel like Big E in particular is somebody who shouldn't even be on the kickoff show. It could be detrimental to him in a way. It's like, why is this guy that you told me weeks ago should be fighting for the world title? He's away from the New Day. Why is he on a kickoff show all of a sudden? So I feel like some people should just be kept off, and Big E is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And I will say, to play devil's advocate and just to be difficult, people I'd imagine are watching this for free on YouTube, or maybe the free version of the network. And look, I'd perhaps rather see a Daniel Bryan and get into it and be involved and interested in the hype for the paid event, perhaps more so than maybe a cruiserweight match. And that's not to diminish the talent there, but more so a reflection of how they've been presented by the company.
In WWE's credit, I would say today they did use that pre-show as well as a segment during the show to hype up your main event for this Friday between Sami Zayn and Big E.
Good point.
Which
Sure.
I don't think WWE are particularly good at promoting, especially their TV. It's something that AEW does very well. And for the most part, NXT does very well, but we don't see too often. And they've dabbled with it this year with kind of Randy Orton and Drew main eventing. And they've had that Bryan AJ match earlier in the year, which was fantastic. It's just a shame this match is going to be Christmas Day when no one's really going to be watching.
Oh, it's coming up to this coming Friday is when they announced it. Wow,
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Yeah, nobody's gonna watch that. I feel
As someone who got Hanukkah out of his system, perhaps this Friday, I might watch SmackDown.
Is that your alternative to going to the movie theaters? Is watching an episode of SmackDown on Friday?
I don't know what else I'm gonna do this Friday.
Fair enough.
Is it SmackDown and Chinese food?
You know what? We've been working sushi into the rotation the past few years.
Really? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of spread the love around.
Yeah. How was your Hanukkah, Jordan?
It was festive. Thanks for asking, Davie Portman.
No worries at all. Well, let's get right to it. To kind of still, what is your line, John? You say it.
Let's get right down to it.
Let's get right down to it. We kick off TLC 2020 with the WWE title match. Drew McIntyre defending the title against AJ Styles in a TLC match, and the threat of a Miz cash-in is looming. Jordan, what are your feelings on your main title kicking off the show?
Well, you have two of them.
You do?
So I think you should bookend.
I think so too, especially with a gimmick match, like when you do these Hell in a Cell pay-per-views or TLC when you've got multiple of the same. I think it's a good idea to have them as spread out as possible. Did you have any issue with the placement of this match, John?
No, not at all. Oh, I'm sorry, but I want to get the point in real quick, if you don't mind, John.
No, go for it.
Being someone that's played in bands for most of my life, you open with a banger, whether it's a live set or in an album. You grab people by the throat and make them feel good for investing their time, and in this case, their money and their evening on this. And I think they did a great job with that.
Siino, would you go
definitely.
along?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just like Jordan said, like to me, it's like a book. It's like you start off hot. You don't have fans in attendance, so you're not really like worried about losing that aspect of getting fans into it. But you start off hot. You have your meat in the program of the show, and you end off hot literally, as we saw tonight. So I have no problem at all with them starting with a world title match.
Yeah, we've been saying this on NXT as well, that this week, Braden and I enjoyed so much more because you just kick the show off with a great match. And it puts you in a good mood. If the first match delivers, you kind of have faith. It's like, Jordan, you say with bands, but also stand-up comedians. If a stand-up comedian starts off with a killer joke, you trust that they're going to make you laugh for the rest of the night. If they start with a weak joke, you might go, oh, this guy's not funny. And even when they land a zinger, you're like, well, he's not funny. And I thought they delivered tonight. So we start off, both are going at it. We have Drew catapult AJ headfirst into a chair that's set up in the corner. AJ starts dumping a ladder on top of Drew, and his game plan is he's going to work the leg, brother. He applies a calf crusher to Drew, but with Drew's leg wrapped through the ladder, looked very painful. He then applied the calf crusher with a steel chair as well, and Drew's selling this leg like it's been shattered. Drew manages to break the calf crusher by grabbing AJ's head and just smashing it against the ladder. We have a suplex to AJ on the ladder. AJ comes back with a phenomenal forearm, and then Drew with this big just dumping, like over the head dump of AJ out of the ring through the table on the outside. Looked a very awkward landing here, guys. AJ kind of going bum first through the table. The first kind of nasty spot of the night, I thought, of many nasty spots tonight with it being TLC. We then have The Miz run out with his Money in the Bank briefcase, cashes in, turning the TLC match into a triple threat. So unlike any cash-in we've ever seen, Miz can win by grabbing the briefcase rather than pinfall. Miz starts to climb, but he kind of milks it a bit, and Omos, who's on the outside for AJ Styles, catches him, carries him like a babe in his arms, and just dumps Miz through a table on the outside. Morrison then comes in with a steel chair, smashes it across the back of Omos, who doesn't react at all. This chair just breaks in half over the back. And Omos then takes out Morrison. We then have Miz coming back into the ring. Him and AJ both climbing the ladder. But Miz gets knocked off. AJ and Drew then climb, and AJ starts punching away at the knee of Drew, previously injured in the match, to get him away from the title. Now Miz scales up on a second ladder, and all three are punching on the top. AJ falls, then Miz falls down, but then AJ, like Spider-Man or a cat, leaps back onto the ladder to climb up, starts delivering forearms to Drew in the face. Drew is now down. Miz scales the ladder again, and it's AJ and Miz fighting on top. AJ is pushed off. Miz gets pushed off and meets a Claymore by Drew McIntyre, who is now hopping up the ladder with one leg, and Drew retains the WWE title. Jordan, let's start with you. As someone who isn't watching weekly, hasn't necessarily seen the build for this, did this deliver for you?
It did, but to be honest, Davie, I think you may be the MVP of the evening. How did you get all that documented to read back to us? Seriously, you were watching a program, you were engaging in lively conversation with the two of us, and facilitating community in a Twitch stream. I never noticed you typing that much.
Multitasking. Apparently, men can do it. That's why it helps. It helps having more than just one other person in the Twitch stream. But thank you.
Yeah, holy shit. Well, look, big respect to you, Braden, John Way, Brian Mann, anyone else who's ever done this. That is entirely impressive. I enjoyed the match. I'll also preface this with, I did not have that level of attention, at least focused on what I was watching on TV. I was enjoying the hang with the two of you and everyone in the Twitch stream. So I feel like I experienced TLC tonight almost like a fan who doesn't really follow that much. And if you're going to hang with some friends in a living room, you're kind of half paying attention. What caught my attention during this match was the involvement of Omos. again, I haven't watched the past few weeks. I was sharing with you guys. It was the most I have felt from him emotionally. I thought his facial reactions were on point. I believed him. Most importantly, him holding Miz and dropping him like a child through the table, I thought was one of the more memorable moments of the entire evening. A star in the making, and I think it will take work to fuck him up. I would say the final 5 minutes and maybe even a bit more, I thought crescendoed very well. I liked Miz's involvement in the match. I liked that he became an actual part of the match, and it went for some length. And ultimately, the right guy won. 1 out of 1 cowbell for the opening match.
Siino.
Yeah, piggyback off of Jordan. I'm so happy. Like, it's been since May 10th, 2020 that Otis won the Money in the Bank, and then he carried it on to the Miz. You could have told me it was May 10th, 2019, and I would definitely believe you, because I feel like this Money in the Bank briefcase has been lingering for at least 2 years now. So I'm happy that we got a resolution to it. I don't care if it's cashed in or not cashed in, or you actually was able to do it or not. I'm just happy it's done with, because I don't want to see this briefcase anymore. Omos definitely brings a bright spot to any match, whether it be AJ Styles or not. But just having him involved definitely makes me interested, because he's very subtle with what he does, and what he doesn't say anything, but just his actions is very good. And it's a rest in peace to Tiny Lister, aka Zeus. He has very similar like aspects to what Zeus did, where he didn't really say much or do anything, but he still had a certain presence to him. And I feel like Amos is kind of like very similar to that, where he just gets involved. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't get involved, but at the same time, he is able to make a big presence in the match. And it definitely affected this match. Obviously, to me, Drew McIntyre was going to win, but it was definitely a good, entertaining match. It didn't keep me uninterested at all during this match.
I think while we're on the subject of Omos, Braden made a point on Up Next when we were running through predictions for this, and he was kind of saying, it's AJ Styles, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Why does he need Omos? It's not a matter of AJ needing Omos. It's giving Omos that experience working so closely with someone like AJ, but to also give him this mystique that they're not kind of like a Shawn Diesel or more modern like Raquel and Dakota, where you're using Omos in heater matches to like heat up. It's not that. He's just this presence that's there, and hopefully he's at the PC a lot working on his wrestling. But Jordan, you made a great point during the watch along about Vince wants those people that you're in an airport and people are gonna turn around and stare. Like, I don't know who that guy is, but he is someone. With Omos's height and everything, I really hope they don't mess him up with the Big Show and just overexpose him. And it's going to mean something when this guy finally has his first singles match. And as you said, it will take a lot to mess this up, but it's WWE we're talking about here. I also really enjoyed the match. I thought the legwork from AJ was really good and something a bit different that we don't always see in these kind of TLC hardcore matches, which are always about stunts and stuff. I liked the isolating of a limb part, and even though this feels like a long time since we've had a epic cash-in, I thought Miz actually really added to this match, and it gave an urgency to the end, and the climbing at the end with each guy going up and it being combinations of the three. I thought it made for a really exciting finish. It's, I think, for the best that we've just got rid of this Money in the Bank now, and we can wait a bit, and next year it's going to mean something, because we feel like we haven't had that successful cash-in for a while. But I'm with you guys. 1 out of 1 on the show so far.
Yep.
We go to Kayla Braxton, who's backstage with Paul Heyman, hyping up Roman Reigns later up on in the night. Heyman says that he likes watching NASCAR for the car crashes, and that's exactly why he's looking forward to this match later tonight, as someone is going to get hurt, and that person is Kevin Owens, and he will be hurt by the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. I think just exactly what you'd expect here. Strong Paul Heyman promo. Not necessarily needed. I think this match was hot enough going in, but Heyman sounded good as always. Any comments, or shall we move on to the women's?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Sorry, John. This is the last time I'll mention it. How did you even hear all that, Davey?
I've got big ears.
Shout out to Paul Heyman. Like, between talking smack and all these like social media things, the way he's like escalated and presented like Big E and Bianca Belair, it's been so great. Like, people are missing this. They're not showing this on TV. They're not showing this in the pay-per-views. But like, go back and watch Talking Smack, 5 minutes between Big E and Paul Heyman, and the way that Paul Heyman presents Big E and gets you so hyped up to what's next with him is much more than what you're seeing on SmackDown, much more than what you're seeing on the pay-per-views. It's so great, and it's sad that not everybody is seeing this. You have to like literally go out of your way or have somebody DM you like a 5-minute video from Talking Smack to actually see what is being presented. And it's, to me, it's really upsetting that this potential is being wasted.
It actually makes him come across as more of an actual sports manager, sports agent, that he's not just someone that talks a load of shit for Roman Reigns. He's someone who is there looking who is going to be the next big guy and trying to give that advice, because maybe he'd like to sign this guy to his agency one day. He does something that I think Taz is very good at on AEW, where he'll always be hyping up his guy whilst putting the other guy over. He always acknowledges people's strengths, but he's like, but Roman's the best. Roman will still beat you, but you can do this and you can do that. And you're right, go check out those Talking Smack, especially that Big E one. I thought was excellent. We go to our SmackDown Women's Championship match. Carmella challenging Sasha Banks, hot off of the Mandalorian finale, but we won't hear any of that tonight from WWE. The match starts, we have this pretty cool arm drag from Sasha off of the apron. It actually looked like she was going for her tornado DDT that she did on a certain Star Wars legend earlier in the week, but it turned into an arm drag, which was pretty cool. We've got, is it Reginald, the sommelier for...
Yeah, they started, it was originally Tommy, but they started calling him Reginald, I guess, today.
So he's there throughout the whole match, helping out Carmella. We get the Three Amigos and a frog splash from Sasha. Carmella starts coming back with these elbows. There's this fantastic sequence where Carmella just charges at Sasha Banks, who catches her in this tilt-a-whirl, possibly going for like a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, but Carmella manages to transition it into an X-Factor or face buster, whatever you want to call it. I thought looked really good for a near fall from Carmella. We get now Sasha draped over the apron with Carmella delivering forearms to the back, followed by a super kick to the face as Sasha's on the apron. Sasha gets rolled back into the ring, 1, 2, but Sasha grabs the ropes. They're then fighting on the top rope, and we get this kind of victory roll from Sasha Banks. And this is where we just get this, all these pin combinations countered. We get fighting over who's going to get the backslide. Carmella goes for the X Factor again, but gets rolled with a jackknife from Sasha. But Carmella transitions that into the Code of Silence, which Sasha manages to counter into the bank statement, which Carmella then manages to counter into a double chicken wing that gets rolled back into the bank statement. And as Carmella's about to tap, Reginald pulls Carmella to the outside. As they're checking on each other on the outside, Sasha comes with a Meteora to Reginald, but eats a super kick again. Then another super kick from Carmella. Carmella goes for the pin, but Sasha kicks out. And we then see Carmella starting to get really frustrated. She lets it slip and gets caught in the bank statement once again and taps out. Sasha Banks retains. Siino, let's start with you this time round.
Yeah, I mean, Sasha's a really good wrestler, obviously. Carmella's not the worst in the world, but Sasha makes Carmella look like a lot better than she actually is. The match overall was really good. I'm just upset that we didn't see a tornado DDT. That's my one thing. But other than that, Yeah, she's saving it for the big WrestleMania
For her
spot, I
Mania,
guess.
her Mania Mandalorian gear, for sure.
Shout out to Carmella's entrance. I really like her entrance. But this match was really good. It wasn't... I don't know why they even had a match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago for no reason. It ended like with a DQ. It was really weird. You had this whole stipulation... Not stipulation, but you had this like after-match antics with the bottle of bubbly and this and that had no effect at all. In this match, it ended up being a straight-up one-on-one match. Sasha wins. She goes on to her next program. I feel like she just made Carmella look a lot better than she actually is. I mean, simple as that. Carmella's not the worst wrestler, but she looks so much better just fighting somebody with the caliber of Sasha Banks.
Jordan.
I'm ignorant to your guys' Star Wars references, but I was most interested in Carmella because it's been a while since I've seen her, especially in a match. I think she's had a really nice trajectory for the long term in WWE. Obviously, the way she started with Enzo and Cass, and then moving on to the Ellsworth stuff, and taking, I'd say, maybe a step back with R-Truth, but turning face and playing more into comedy. But that's how you stay in WWE over the long haul. You pivot, and sometimes you take more of a back seat. I like this more serious presentation. I think for a long time now, she's had the charisma, the confidence. I believe her. And I think the in-ring has stepped up. She seems like someone who truly gives a fuck about improving and getting better. And I think she owned the opportunity tonight. I don't think she should be the one with the title right now, but I think she did herself a lot of favors tonight to make the case that in the future, perhaps she should deserve it.
I completely agree with you. I really enjoyed this match, actually. And Carmella is someone who's been a great character for a while, can be really good on the mic. And obviously, John, like Sasha, did bring this out of her, but also it does take two to tango, right?
Yep.
Think a couple of years ago, Asuka, one of the best wrestlers in the world, had a series of matches against Carmella, and they were awful. They were terrible. And this was really good. I really enjoyed this, and I think Carmella has come a long way and is someone who deserves to be there. I just enjoyed some of the counters, especially the whole pin counters and submission counters. I thought were really entertaining, and I kind of hope we don't see Carmella just fall into the background after this, because I think she is someone you can lean on when you need to. But also Sasha Banks just having a hell of a year, just putting out great match after great match. Also thought Carmella's now added a bit more of a aggressive side to her in-ring style, which I really liked as well. But again, 2 out of 2 for me with the matches tonight.
You guys think that Carmella needs this Reginald, this this presence to her as far as her, not a manager, I guess you could say. But do you think she needs that? Is that part of her character now?
I don't think she necessarily needs him, but I think with her doing this sort of bougie gimmick, it's someone she can talk down to and kind of bully a little. But I don't necessarily think it's needed. I think she's good enough on her own when it comes to promos and stuff. Jordan, would you agree with that?
I think it worked well with Ellsworth. I think it worked really well with R-Truth, even though she kind of played second to him. But I think to have a male kind of beneath her, in a sense, playing a supportive role with a more aggressive, serious character, I think there's a lot of creative that can come as a result of that. And because of that, she may not need to be in the title picture or even have a long-term feud at any given moment, because there's enough creative potential with the partner in this guy.
I could totally see Carmella being the next person to have a talk show. It seems like anyone who can talk at all has a talk show, and I can definitely see her sat down with the champagne and to set up other angles. But that's very played out. I hope not, but it's something I could definitely see them do. We go to Billie Kay, who's backstage, and Billie Kay she wants a tag partner. She's been looking for a tag partner. She's just been looking for something to do since the Iconics broke up. And she heard that Asuka needs a partner for her tag title match later. So hands her resume. She mocks Asuka's... Well, doesn't mock, but she kind of mimics Asuka's dance while holding up a mask of her own. And Asuka says that Billie Kay is not ready for Asuka. So denying her proposition tonight. We go to the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, defending against the Hurt Business, made up of Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. The match started off hot with Kofi hitting a super kick immediately to Cedric, with Xavier Woods following up with the leg drop for a near fall. I thought they might be doing this like 10-second match here. Cedric kicks out but eats a crossbody from Kofi for another near fall. Just the pace at the beginning of this match was crazy fast. We have a really nice sequence between Kofi and Shelton, I believe, and I'd kind of like to see these two follow up a bit more. We then had a brainbuster from Cedric to Kofi. Shelton catches Kofi on the top rope and almost hits a snap superplex off the top, which looked really cool. And Shelton starts setting up for his finisher on Kofi, but Cedric blind tags himself in, with Benjamin looking kind of pissed off about this. Cedric goes in, hits the Lombard check, and wins clean, with the Hurt Business finally picking up the Raw Tag Team Championship. You saw Shelton looking a bit miffed here, but then joins in the celebration. But big win here for the Hurt Business. And Lashley then comes out to celebrate with them. So 3 out of 4 of the Hurt Business all carrying gold. This was a really quick match, a kind of a sudden finish, but I don't really think it needed much more than this. Jordan, what were your thoughts?
I like the spotlight on Cedric. I think he's the most obvious choice to get the spotlight right now. I think MVP is one of the literal MVPs in pro wrestling this year. I think he did a lot earlier this year for Apollo Crews, helping to bring out some of his personality. And we're seeing the same thing right now with Cedric Alexander, and he can say that he is a WWE champion as a result.
Siino.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all 4 of these competitors are some of the best talents in WWE, in wrestling right now. But I've seen this match or this combination so many times now that when the match started, that my eyes kind of like just rolled, like, okay, it's this again. It did get me interested, like you said, the finale with Cedric tagging himself in and getting like this kind of like weird out of nowhere win. But I'm happy that they won the titles. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that this is the end of this rivalry, because I've seen this match so many times now. But I love to see the Hurt Business with all this gold. 3 out of 4, like you said, with titles right now. Hopefully they can move on from the New Day. There's not much on Raw, unfortunately, as far as tag teams go. But I'm happy to see some sort of quote-unquote resolution with this feud that hopefully can end right now.
I think the fact that we've seen this match so many times recently, often going for like 2 or 3 segments, it was a smart choice making this a quick match, because it felt urgent and it did feel different from all the stuff we've seen on TV. Was kind of surprised they were starting the dissension between Cedric and Shelton before they've even won the title. I don't know if they're going to play into that even more, or if it was Cedric kind of proving himself, because he's been that sort of weak link. He was the person they brought in last because it wasn't working for him outside the Hurt Business. Found that kind of odd, but we'll see where it plays out. But Hurt Business definitely, as Jordan said, MVP, one of the MVPs this year. They all elevate each other, and these are all characters that 6 months to a year ago I wasn't interested in at all, and they've all raised their stock, showing that this faction works, unlike some other factions we've seen on Raw this year. We learned that R-Truth is going to be hosting the Slammy Awards this Wednesday. Hear us talk all about that on Up Next this week. Maybe not. We have Kayla Braxton backstage with Sami Zayn, and basically this leaked recording has come out of Sami Zayn just complaining about Big E taking his award at the Sammy Awards, mocking the kind of Tom Cruise leak that we talked all about on Wednesdays Up Next. And Sammy is blaming Kayla, saying he wants to know who leaked the audio, but Kayla says a journalist doesn't reveal her sources. So Kayla Braxton recently on Smackdown taking a bit of a bigger role, showing a bit more personality, and I think she's great at it. So I'm glad to see this.
Good for her.
Jordan, what did you make of this little parody right here?
I liked it. As I mentioned in the Twitch chat earlier tonight, I think it's one of the more recent effective responses to pop culture. I give Sami Zayn a lot of credit for that. Who knows if it was his call or not to do it, but I believed him in the execution. I also think it helped that it was just audio that was released and it was easy to do it quick and dirty. In fact, it not being the best audio quality made it more believable.
Siino.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shout out to Sami Zayn's hair on the Sammy Awards. I wish he would use that for every match he has. And Kyla Braxton, like she's been like, especially like on Talking Smack, and like she's been like standing up to like Paul Heyman and everybody else, even people like pointing out, because Talking Smack releases the day after, and people keep picking on her like, this is the day after. Stop saying it's tonight. And she like has these like little like moments of like standing up for herself. And I feel like even with Roman Reigns, she's been standing up for herself in a way. And I feel like they would cap. I mean, the Attitude Era would definitely like take this and throw her into a match, but they're not going to do this nowadays. But I wish that they would take this and have some sort of character development for Kayla. They're probably not going to, because I feel like they just wouldn't do that nowadays. But me as a fan watching it is like, yeah, go Kayla.
It seems to be a directive, because for so long now, these backstage interviewers have just been robots with zero personality. But we noticed with Mackenzie on Wednesday this week that they kind of gave her a bit more personality. So maybe it's something up top that they've changed their mind on these roles. And I think it's definitely for the better, because you always look at the greats like Mean Gene, and he was someone that would give back. And I like that they're allowing like Kayla, Charlie, and all them to do this a bit more.
And I also want to offer respect to Renee and Kathy Kelly as well. I think they really created lanes for these other women, especially on the social side of the company, where I think they probably have a lot more autonomy to try new things and to be creative and to simply just be themselves, which I think and would argue is always going to be the quickest way to audience engagement and ultimately their money. So I've seen Kayla here and there doing things with the bump and much more. And I like that. I think that's where not only WWE or every other pro wrestling company should go, but quite frankly, every business that exists to create content for free at scale every day, not unlike what you're doing, Davie. I think that is how you build audience engagement for the long term. And I really, really like Kayla in the role right now.
100%. I mean, realistically, you think of all these late night talk shows, you're not necessarily watching it every night for the guest, are you? You're watching it because you're a fan of Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or whoever it is. So yeah.
And most are watching the next day on YouTube.
Absolutely. Completely. 100%. You're so right. We go to the women's tag team title match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending the titles against Asuka and a mystery partner. So we've had this long feud going for a couple of months now where Lana got put through tables 9 times. She's been bullied. She wins the Survivor Series for her team. She's being called useless. And then you think this is all building to a big, maybe tables match at TLC where Asuka and Lana can win the titles. But instead, Lana has her ankle broken by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And we get Charlotte. Charlotte Flair's back, taking the role of Lana here, partnering Asuka. We have Asuka working the arm of Shayna early on, and they kind of build up this moment when Charlotte tags in and makes her big return. She goes back and forth with Shayna for a bit, then Asuka gets tagged back in, and Shayna and Nia isolate Asuka for a while. Asuka's trying to make the tag back to Charlotte, but Shayna runs around the outside to try and sweep the feet away from Charlotte, but she makes it anyway. We have a beautiful moonsault from Charlotte to the outside, and then Asuka blind tags herself in as Charlotte is hit with a Samoan drop by Nia, but Charlotte isn't the legal woman. We get a Karafuda clutch attempt from Shayna, which she transitions into a pin, but Charlotte manages to kick out and applies the figure 8. However, Nia Jax breaks it. We then have a flying hip attack to the floor from Asuka, and then natural selection from Charlotte. 1, 2, 3. And Charlotte and Asuka are your new tag team champions. Jordan, let's start with you here.
To be honest, this was the match I paid the least attention to. I think I may have been baking some pizza at the time. I like Charlotte coming back. Put the title on her. Why not? I mean, there's no chase, but I guess they just did that with the New Day as well recently when they returned. There's obvious history between Charlotte and Asuka. Again, I don't like let's throw tag titles on two people and they're going to immediately feud. I haven't watched enough to really get a sense of Nia and Shayna's reign. You guys can tell me if you thought it was working or not, if it was too early to take it off them or not. I presume next at bat would be the Riot Squad. Do you think that would make sense for these new champions? I guess I leave with more questions.
Siino, what would you say? You try and answer Jordan there.
Yeah, I mean, this match was weird. I mean, you had back-to-back title changes. In the back of your head, you're like, yeah, it could be Charlotte, but it's not going to be Charlotte. And then it was Charlotte, which makes really no sense if you've actually been paying attention to the storyline. It's been about Nia and Lana the entire time, right? Like, when is Lana going to get her comeback? You know, she's been, like you said, put through a table 9 times. Like, this is her opportunity, right? She's going to win a title. And then this weird thing happened on Raw where she was taken out, and then Asuka has a mystery partner. And it's like, there might be more to that story, but it just felt so out of the blue and weird. And it's like, okay, well, here's Charlotte, and now Charlotte's taking this like spot that wasn't even meant for her, and it's gonna, you know, like eventually, like Jordan said, it's gonna lead to Charlotte versus Asuka. But it's just like so random. Like, I feel like it just didn't belong. Like, not right now. This could have been something that could have been done later on. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and like I wasn't really a fan of the title change, like especially for a team that's not established. And like Jordan asked, is the Riot Squad next in line? Yeah, they are, but realistically, are they going to win? They're not going to. You have Asuka and Charlotte, two of the best wrestlers in WWE. They're not going to lose the titles or even be shown to be weak against a team like the Riot Squad.
Yeah, I found this all rather strange. I didn't think the match was bad. I'm not particularly a Nia Jax fan, and I think she was the weak link of this match, but the other three are phenomenal workers and worked really well. Just storyline wise, it made no sense because it was Lana's story and she wasn't even there to kind of like limp out or help win or celebrate with them or anything. Like it felt like Lana was the plan, and then Charlotte maybe text on Monday morning going like, hey Vince, I'm ready. And they just cut Lana from the story and inserted Charlotte. I don't see this being a long-term reign. I do see this as a way of setting up Charlotte and Asuka, perhaps at WrestleMania. You've got the story of Charlotte breaking the streak at WrestleMania. It's a chance for Asuka to kind of try and get that win back. I ultimately see probably Nia and Shayna getting these titles back before they move to a Riot Squad feud, because I think Riot Squad winning at Mania would be quite a nice moment, but they need to win against bullies, you know, heels. I don't see it helping anyone having the Riot Squad against Charlotte and Asuka. I do see this way as for a short-term plan to maybe get Charlotte again on all 3 shows. Could have a match down at NXT with Raquel and Dakota. They can be on SmackDown and Raw. Charlotte's a big name, but again, this tag division's a mess here. You're one legit tag team of the Iconics, you're split up, and now you've just got another makeshift team holding these titles, which feels like it's a prop to maybe move to another story.
And that was going to be my follow-up as an honest question. I know there's titles, but is there an actual division for these titles?
No. You had 2 teams. You had Kairi and Asuka, and you had the Iconics, and neither are a thing.
Like, then what's the point? And to be asked as a fan to invest my time and energy and at some point money, hopefully, in the product, this is one of those moments where I don't quite feel respected as a fan. Like, if there can't be enough thought and planning put into supporting a championship that has been introduced to the company, beyond maybe the first title reign, and I don't even remember that being quite memorable. Like, why should fans care? I kind of like the idea that maybe there's one set of titles that can travel between the 3 brands in the company, and obviously the 2 of them feuding with some women on NXT, I think would be a much needed boost. to that program. It's a show that I don't watch typically. If they were on it and it was a well-built climax with a team of women down there, I don't know if they have tag teams with women down there or not. I think that would get me to tune in. Maybe if they headlined an NXT show with that. But yeah, as I think about the Raw and SmackDown, besides Riot Squad, I don't know who you go to. And again, the point with Riot Squad is you end up going to the title match way too early. And I think that's a common problem with this company right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel we keep saying this with every team that become champions, but your women's tag division is in NXT. You have Raquel and Dakota. You now have Candice and Indy Hartwell. She's injured now, but you had Shotzi and Tegan Knox. You've got these teams down there, and I would love to see them do that more often. And as you said, that is something. Charlotte and Asuka coming back to NXT to defend the tag titles is a good TV main event, and their women's roster as a whole is just stacked. It's just a shame to have these titles just go into waste, really. Siino, any final thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Last time we saw the titles defended NXT, it was Bayley and Sasha against Tegan and Shotzi. Nia and Shayna didn't even go down there at all. But Charlotte and Asuka being so tied to NXT, I feel like they kind of have to in a way. And like you said, most of the tag teams, they're in NXT right now. You have at least 3-4 different NXT female tag teams going on right now. So why not just show up, whether it be the January 6th New Year's Evil show, something big, just to show like, hey, we're still thinking about NXT. We're still putting our big stars on there. And who's bigger right now than Charlotte and Asuka in the women's division? So just throw them down there. I mean, you're all within the vicinity. It's not like out of your way to present them on the show. So why not do it? It doesn't really hurt them. If anything, it brings more eyes to the NXT product on Wednesday nights.
We go backstage and see Big E and R-Truth laughing about the Sami Zayn leak. And R-Truth says that, did you know your lips don't touch when you say the word touch, but they do touch when you say the word separate? Interesting. Sami Zayn's there and he's very upset about the leak. And Big E just says, keep playing. I will see you real soon. And looks really serious, and Sami suddenly looks scared and walks off. And that's where it's announced that this Friday, Christmas Day, Big E will challenge Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. I think we might have mentioned this earlier, but I like that they're giving attention to Big E, but it's just the IC title feels a bit beneath him at this point. I feel he should be... It's treading water. It's doing things they've done before, and I just want to see Big E in this main event mix now. Jordan, you were nodding your head there.
Well, no, actually, I would argue that if the creative is done well and the matches are compelling, then the IC title mix shouldn't feel that beneath the world title mix. I mean, good pro wrestling is good pro wrestling. I really liked that blow-off match with Big E and Sheamus. I thought that was really effective. Hard-hitting pro wrestling. I think that helped Big E. I think Sami Zayn, as a dance partner, if you will, could create more. I don't know if compelling is the word, but interesting or creative moments with Big E. Their personalities, I think, are a really nice fit. I think they'll complement each other really well. And Sami Zayn seems fucking motivated right now, especially creatively. And clearly Big E is too. I expect magic from these two. I think if we don't get that, then the blame has to go to people other than the two of them. I look forward to the match this week, and I'm rooting for both of them.
Do you see a title change?
I hope not. I think there's more legs for this. Again, once you start something, like, why pay it off at the beginning? That's why I really didn't like this Charlotte deal tonight, getting the title right away. Sami Zayn is a classic heel, so he can cheat, but he can do it in an interesting, compelling way. Or instead of a distraction roll-up or whatever other kind of lazy, overdone finishes this company may or may not have been doing more recently. I think the two of them, Big E and Sami Zayn, have enough creativity, and the characters are just so interesting that I would like to see this go at least to Royal Rumble. Give Big E a huge moment at the Royal Rumble. Who knows if there's bigger plans for him or not at WrestleMania. I kind of feel like it's a bit premature to expect him to be in the world title mix at WrestleMania. So give him a definitive IC title run for the first quarter or two of next year.
I agree with everything you're saying. I can see it being Christmas Day and then wanting to kind of make it a big Christmas celebration with Big E dethroning the heel. Siino, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Him like having the IC title win on Christmas Day is a big moment, but I feel like it's very close to WrestleMania. And at this point, it's the Rumble season. It's the point where he should be pushed for a world title opportunity, whether it be winning the Rumble or just having a shot at the Rumble. But I feel like having the IC title win so close to January just feels like it's not a good look for him. Like, if he wins the title now, then it's like he's not going to get a world title shot till mid 2021, I feel like. So I wouldn't even want him to – I want him to lose and then win the Rumble in a good fashion.
But can you guys really see him going to WrestleMania and actually dethroning Roman Reigns?
I can, honestly. The way that Big E is, and if you go back and watch the Paul Heyman promo he had with Big E, he made it seem like he was the guy. He was like, you're going to make a footnote in history right now where people aren't going to remember the New Day. They're going to remember the Big E. And if they take that package and literally take that and present it in a fashion, pushing Big E, I think he has a good point in winning the Royal Rumble this year, and he definitely could do it. He needs to separate a little bit from the New Day a little bit. He already, changed his entrance, but just change the music, change a little bit more of his gear maybe, and I feel like he could be one of the top contenders to win the Rumble this year.
I honestly think there are two options for Roman. Unless you're getting... I really hope it's not Goldberg, but unless you're getting The Rock or Goldberg in, there are only two full roster guys at the moment who are interesting for Mania, and that's Daniel Bryan or Big E. And it did feel like they were maybe slowly building Big E for this kind of thing. But as Frank says in the room, you could always do a title versus title like Hogan and Warrior. Your Rumble winner could always be challenging for Raw or even NXT if they do that again like last year. And you could have an IC title holder challenging the Universal Championship. We have seen it before, and this seems to be the year of double champions.
Look, I hope they go all the way with Big E. I think he is the one. I think he can be positioned to be to fill that Cena role. I think in ways they're trying with Drew McIntyre. I like Drew McIntyre a lot, but I don't think Drew McIntyre is going to be that person that you put on talk shows. Big E is that person. Big E, I think, resonates with 8-year-olds and can resonate with 80-year-olds. He's believable in his strength and his fierceness and his physical dominance, but he's also believable in his humor and being just a compassionate human being. I think he is the total package. I'd love to see them go all the way with it. But again, I don't know if the company trusts him or themselves enough to really pull the trigger. I think it's still the Roman Reigns show.
Well, speaking of Roman Reigns, we go to the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns defending his title against Kevin Owens in a TLC match. Roman Reigns makes his entrance first, which is very strange for the champion, unless they're going to get attacked by behind by their opponent. Kevin Owens jumps the bell. He hits a cannonball in the corner. They go to the outside and he hits a cannonball on the outside, followed by a frog splash to the floor. And Jey Uso runs in right away, but eats a super kick from KO. KO then just starts attacking the ankle of Jey with a steel chair, smashing it. He wraps it around the ankle, stomps on it, apparently taking Jey Uso out, but we'll see about that. Roman Reigns then picks up the steel stairs and starts attacking Kevin Owens with the stairs. And now Roman's using a ladder. We get a backdrop to KO through 2 setup chairs in the ring. And this is where Roman just starts talking to himself and looking very, very scary. KO starts climbing the ladder, but Jey Uso is back. We get a Superman punch from Roman. We get super kicks, stunners, a pop-up powerbomb to Jey through a table. And then KO just starts burying Jey under the announce table, taking him out of the match for the second time. Kevin Owens starts climbing, but Roman goes after him and powerbombs KO on top of the ladder. Owens then goes through a table, and then Roman picks him up again, and Samoan drops him through another table. This time, Roman is climbing, but Kevin Owens grabs his ankle. We see this look of disbelief on Roman's face that turns into disgust and then turns into laughter. This man just won't stay down. He starts talking trash, saying, "You're embarrassing your family." So Kevin Owens slaps him in the face, but eats a spear through a table in the corner. But after Roman hits the spear, you can see him kind of selling his neck a bit, like it might have done some damage to him as well. Kevin Owens is now on the outside saying, "You're gonna have to kill me. Come on, come on." Beckons Roman towards him. Roman runs at him with a spear, but Owens jumps out of the way, sending Roman crashing through the barricade. Owens then starts dragging himself up the ladder, kind of using his knee to push himself up, but Roman gets in there and takes Owens down. Now both are climbing the ladders. We get more super kicks from Owens, a pop-up powerbomb, but into a Superman punch from Roman. Owens goes for it again, and this time powerbombs Roman through the table. KO climbs again, gets his hand on the championship, but Jey Uso once again is back. They fight on the mat, stunner to Uso, and Jey just sells this like he's died. KO climbs again, manages to get his fingertips on the title, but gets hit with a low blow from Roman, followed by the guillotine on top of the ladder until Owens passes out, falls, and Roman looks down with disgust before taking the title. Siino.
I loved everything about this match. The fact that like Jey Uso kept getting involved and they took him out, he came back in. Even the finish, like you don't really see that, especially in like TLC matches, let alone ladder matches, where you put a guillotine hold on somebody and they just drop off and fall off the ladder. Amazing storytelling for this match. The right person won, obviously, with Roman Reigns, but Kevin Owens looked so strong in defeat here. Jey Uso kept getting involved, so it gives that excuse to Kevin Owens, like possibly the reason why he didn't win the title. But I just love this match, beginning to end. Like everything about this feud is so good. I haven't seen anything wrong about this feud at all. I just want more elements to it. Throw in Jimmy Uso, throw in Rikishi. I don't care what it is at this point, but I feel like we need to see the next layer of the Tribal Chief at this point.
Jordan.
Roman is simply one of the most, if not the most compelling figures in pro wrestling right now. He is literally, or perhaps not literally, we may see that later in the evening, but he's on fire, people. That's what I'm trying to say. Kevin Owens has made a career of doing matches like these. He was the perfect person for this spot. If you're going to have a ladder match of some kind because it's December, Kevin Owens was the guy to do that. I think the challenge was obvious. How much can we make people believe that Kevin has a shot? I think there were a few spots in the match with well-placed camera angles that made you think he may do it. I think, we never really thought there was that shot. But again, much of this isn't meant for us. It's meant for the 8-year-old, or it's meant for the 38-year-old who doesn't spend most of their time reading the wrestling on the internet. And I think for those people, they probably did an effective job of making them believe that Kevin Owens had a legitimate shot in this match. I believed them. It was hard hitting. It was fun. I like Uso's involvement. I love Paul Heyman's role with Roman Reigns. And I think this was another hit for the night.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. We've seen so many ladder matches this year, I feel. And this kind of separated itself from then. I think with the storytelling they've been doing on SmackDown with Owens constantly getting beaten down, but always getting back up, it meant in this match, I didn't feel like you had that slow walking up the ladder, waiting for the other person to make the save. You'd see a big spot happen, and the other guy would quite quickly climb the ladder. Like, realistically, no matter how hurt I am, if I'm in a ladder match, I'm going up that thing as fast as I can. And it's one of the things that often takes me out is the laboring climb. But because you've built this Kevin Owens character as someone who will withstand all this pain, it meant you had this more urgent chase up the ladder, and it was so back and forth. None of us had Kevin Owens winning this. We all did our predictions during the watch along. None of us saw him winning. Everyone knew Roman would win this. Yet you're biting on not near falls, but opportunities for that title, which tells me it's a good match. I was captivated by this. They had some cool spots, but maybe not the absolutely nuts stuff I was expecting. But I'm glad, because I thought they told a compelling story here. And and with Siino, I love that guillotine. The way to finally put him out and win this thing isn't by putting him through 7 tables, but by choking him out, putting him out. I really enjoyed this. Another hit for the night.
I mean, that's been the story of Roman Reigns. I feel like since he came back from his time away from the ring, is the story aspect of it. Like, nobody's really talking about his matches. His matches are okay, but nothing to write home about. But I feel like it's all about the story building to it. The before and after on the matches is what's really keeping Roman Reigns in your discussion right now. And this is going to continue with this match. I want to know what happened on SmackDown. I want to know how he reacts to winning this match. It's not about how he won it. It's about what he does after when he wins.
Who do you see his opponent for the Rumble being?
I mean, I would love to see the thing is Big E. I want to see him fight Big E, but I don't know if I want him to fight at the Rumble or if he wins the Rumble. Either way, it would be good. I don't know. I really don't know who he would fight at the actual Rumble itself.
It feels like he's ran out of opponents until that big Mania thing. To be honest, if you're going to do the Goldberg match, I'd rather that at the Rumble. You know?
Agreed.
I'd rather have Daniel Bryan or Big E at Mania. You can have Roman Goldberg at the Rumble, I think, is an attraction. Then all you've got is the Elimination Chamber, where you can just throw everyone in it. And then have the person for Mania.
And the difference now is Paul Heyman. I think that could be some really compelling TV, given the ECW, WCW connections, and Roman Reigns perhaps being the definitive WWE guy at the top of the mountain. I would look forward to that.
If you do have Roman and Goldberg, Roman has to win, obviously. How would you book that match if it's at the Rumble? Does Roman just destroy him, or do you have Goldberg have a competitive match? Because I can't see Goldberg having a competitive match in 2020 at all. But Roman has to win that match.
I think Roman just kills him. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, talking about people killing people, let's go to our main event of the evening. It's a Firefly Inferno match. Randy Orton versus The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Now, we have this video package before the match. It's A Nightmare Before Christmas. Bray Wyatt, in his Firefly Funhouse gimmick, is narrating The Night Before Christmas, but with clips of Randy Orton as a trainee at OVW. You have highlights of their feud, Randy and the Wyatt family, the burning down of the Wyatt compound with the death of Sister Abigail. Silent Night is playing creepily. We're just having all highlights of their whole feud before we go back to the arena. And Mike Rome is in the ring announcing that the only way to win this match is by murdering your opponent with fire. Burn them alive. So yes, this isn't pinfall. This is set the opponent on fire. I thought this opening video was kind of cool. It kind of felt like the Firefly Funhouse with Cena. I was scratching my head a bit why you do The Night Before Christmas on Raw Just Gone with The Miz if you're going to use this poem again to highlight this match. It just felt a bit ill thought out, but apart from that gripe, I thought it was a pretty cool opening to this. Any comments on the video package before we get into this fire match?
They probably just think that nobody watched Raw, and they might as well do it again because it's going to be new to them, so why not?
Okay, we go into the match, and Randy Orton comes out in pants. He is so clothed, this man. Pants and a hoodie.
Whoa.
And then we have The Fiend coming out. This time, he often comes to the ring in this tailcoat, this leather tailcoat, but he was wearing it throughout the whole match here. I actually thought this was quite smart because we've seen Inferno matches in the past, and it's kind of telegraphed who's going to win by what the guys are wearing. I think the fact that both of these guys were in long clothes, you kind of bought that either guy could win here. Because obviously, you know, like, you're not going to see a guy's skin set on fire. It's going to be safe, or as safe as you can do it. The match starts, and after 15 minutes of entrances, these entrances were long, there's no fire to start with. They're just fighting in the ring. Every punch Randy delivers, the Fiend laughs. And we even see at one point this kind of liquid dribbling down the Fiend's neck. Look kind of creepy. We see a rare drop kick from Randy Orton. And then eventually Bray comes back with the Sister Abigail to Randy. And then he raises his arms and the whole arena sets on fire. Jordan, talk to me about this visual here. A bit different from your classic Inferno match.
I loved it, and that's one of the benefits of having no crowd. They made the use of the Thunderdome on TLC tonight. I thought it was incredibly powerful and perhaps big picture iconic image in WWE. I could see this being replayed 20 years from now. It was stunning.
Yeah, Siino, I thought this was actually a much better take on the Inferno match. It allowed the talent to do so much more than being, like, realistically, wrestling in a ring of fire. Matches where you're not allowed to leave the ring restrict you anyway. So surrounding the ring with fire really restricts you. I thought this allowed for so much more to happen.
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing because the Inferno matches that I'm used to in the past is like the whole fire is within the ropes and you see a body slam and the fire goes up. So it was cool to see like them utilizing the fact that there's no fans on the ringside. So you have the fire more on the crowd itself. So it was pretty cool. Like, I wish that they would have explained the rules a lot more, because I'm watching the match and I'm like, I don't know how to win this match. Like, how do you actually win this match? And then we didn't find out till the end of the match, obviously. It was a cool, like, visual, like you said.
I think this has been the case with every cinematic match this year. You're watching the Boneyard match and you don't know how it's going to win until the end. Or I don't think there's even a ring bell. Same with the Swamp match. I do think Mike Rome did say you got to set the guy on fire at the beginning. So we did have that. They start fighting on the outside and the Fiend gets a leather strap and actually lights this strap on fire and starts swinging it at Randy. The Fiend gets a pickaxe at one point and swings at Randy, but gets it stuck in ringside. And then we see the classic Wyatt rocking chair. And the Fiend grabs a tank of gasoline, covers the chair in gasoline, and leaves a trail going along the mat. And starts pummeling Randy until Randy is sat in the chair. And he lights this trail of gasoline, and you see the fire kind of chasing towards the chair as Randy jumps out of the way just at the last second as the chair sets on fire. There were obviously some kind of camera cuts and things here, but I thought this looked pretty cool, and again, a bit more inventive than your classic Inferno match.
Yeah, I know Mike Hogan in the chat room said that this match was, I guess, pre-taped earlier this week, and it makes sense. I mean, obviously the stunts that they're doing, you're going to want to take precaution to it. So it makes sense, and obviously the match went last, so why not kind of play with it? You have this advantage of not having fans, just do it. I mean, obviously we know it's not live per se. The Fiend, once you see the Fiend is involved, you might as well throw logic out the window and just kind of accept whatever you see.
Randy then grabs like this, I don't know, it looked kind of like Gandalf's staff, like a tree branch or wooden staff or something, starts swinging it at the Fiend. He then grabs a chain, wraps it round his fist, and starts punching away at Bray. Bray comes back and does the Liam Neeson neck snap from Taken, but doesn't kill Randy. Bray then gets the log stick thing and sets that on fire. And Randy goes for the RKO on the outside, but gets caught with the mandible claw. I thought it was a pretty cool counter to the RKO, actually. But in trying to fight off Bray, he backs him into the fire, and Bray Wyatt sets on fire. Randy runs into the ring, but so does Bray. Bray is still wanting to fight, even though His whole back and his leg is on fire. He runs into the ring and eats an RKO. And Bray Wyatt's down. The fire goes out. And Randy's looking down. What have I done? For a second, he looks remorseful. And then he looks serious again. He's hearing those voices in his head. He goes to the outside. He grabs the tank of gasoline. He comes back in. Commentary are pleading with him. Please, Randy, no! No! Randy douses the Fiend in gasoline. Takes out a match. Strikes it. Looks up to the heavens. And throws it down on the Fiend. And the Fiend completely goes up in flames. He's on fire. He is dead. The flames at ringside just go up in a blaze. There's fire everywhere as Randy strikes the classic Randy Orton pose as everything is on fire. It was lit, to quote Braden Harrington. And TLC goes off the air. Wow. Crazy match. Completely understand why they finished with this. Jordan, you were talking about the spectacle about it and how if you were an 8-year-old, you'd probably think this is the coolest shit ever. Tell me about a bit more about your thoughts on this one.
Well, let me start here. Look, I have a deeply held belief, and that belief was a lot of what motivated me to try to get Ring of Honor to create a position for me where I thought I could be of influence and help make the bridge of the genre of pro wrestling to others in the public that may not appreciate it. I believe that pro wrestling has the potential, if done at its highest levels, to be one of the world's premier performing arts. I think the Kofi Kingston WrestleMania win was evidence of that. This tonight was not that. But if we're objective about what pro wrestling also is, it's fucking silly. This was silly, and I loved it. The man was set on fire, and the other guy won the match. It's so dumb, and it's amazing at the same time. I loved it. Look, I don't know who I was supposed to root for. I didn't really follow much of the build to this match. I checked in on Raw in the past week or two and saw Bray Wyatt doing some sort of like stand-up comedy routine and turned it off. But I loved the payoff to whatever the story they were trying to tell was. He set the guy on fire. What more could you want? Loved it.
Siino.
Shout out to Frank Solo. The match was fire. It's kind of crazy how his tattoos just disappeared right before he was set on fire. I didn't realize fire did that to you. The match was what I expected, but it's like, okay, Orton won. Does he go back to fight Drew now? It's because like the Fiend is one of the top guys on the Raw right now. So what does this mean for Orton? It's really weird. The match was cool, I guess. I mean, it wasn't what I expected. I was hoping in the back of my head is a little bit more cinematic. I wanted to see like the RNN Randy Orton new segments be brought back up and kind of like did what they did with this John Cena Firefly Funhouse, but we didn't get that. But it was cool. I mean, the stunts were cool. They obviously worked with a lot of editing, and I made it seem like a lot more cinematic. But it was kept in the ring, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a good match. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with Orton now. It's just like he beat the Fiend. It's like, does he go back to Drew now? It's kind of awkward.
I feel like
but sorry to interrupt, Davey. Did he beat the Fiend? He just set him on fire.
That's a win, right? I mean,
if
you go to cage match, I'm pretty sure the match is won by Orton. I don't know. It's who won the match? I guess it's Orton, right?
But obviously, with a character like Bray Wyatt, rules go out the window. Logic is not present. So perhaps the next chapter is something more similar to the Cena WrestleMania presentation that they created, which I loved, by the way. And maybe this becomes a bridge to reintroducing the next iteration of Bray Wyatt.
I think we're going to Randy versus Edge now. I think you can rest both of these guys for a few weeks until the Rumble. I think you set up Randy and Edge at the Rumble again, have them both fight, eliminate each other, whatever. That seems to be the direction. There's unfinished business there. I think Edge seems to be ready. That's where I go with him. and Bray you can bring back whenever. It's like it's burying the Undertaker alive, right? You just bring him back. He's set on fire. He's a monster. He comes back. Speaking of Randy versus Edge, I kind of saw this match closer to their Backlash match than I did the Boneyard match, if that makes sense. It felt like a sort of your classic plunder wrestling match with fire, but with the sweetening of editing, rather than doing something kind of scored and on a different set or whatever. You could clearly see like the different cuts and things, but it was fun. It was ridiculous. And how many more months are we going to have of this Thunderdome before we actually start having crowds back? So why not try and make the most of it and do as much like batshit crazy stuff as you can do while you don't have an audience, because you're not going to be able to do this once you get a crowd back. I found this so much more entertaining than previous Inferno matches. And Jordan, as you said, an 8-year-old watching this, I think would be the coolest thing ever. I remember being a kid and thinking Undertaker versus Kane in an Inferno match was just the most awesome thing. They're wrestling in fire. You watch it back now and you go, oh, that's not very good. But I thought this was very entertaining. Ridiculous, yes. Put a good end to the feud for now. Randy murdered the guy. You can always come back to this again down the line with Bray coming back. But yeah, it was ridiculous and I loved it.
Yeah, and for that kid, that would compel me to the next day at school or whatever school is in 2020 to tell 3 of my friends, like, yo, this dude got set on fire. You should watch Raw tonight.
Yeah. I mean, that's what got so many people from my generation into wrestling was the Undertaker and Kane story. You went for this crazy, weird, supernatural thing, and then your fandom evolves. And now I'm more into, strong style, New Japan Pro Wrestling, that kind of thing, which probably wouldn't have interested me as a kid. So it's all different ways to grab people's attention. I think, personally, this was a success. I know there are going to be people out there who absolutely hate this shit, but it's wrestling. Like, there's so many different genres of wrestling, and I thought they did a relatively good job of this. Any final thoughts on this match, guys?
No, it was great, honestly. Like, you just watch it cold without having to watch Raw or SmackDown every week, and I think you would still enjoy it.
So, I mean, we seem pretty positive about the whole thing. I'm giving this show a big thumbs up. I can't... possibly the women's match was a bit questionable, but... Sorry, the women's tag, but even that, it wasn't bad. It was more just kind of head-scratching with the direction and a bit out of nowhere. But I thought, once again, a WWE pay-per-view really, really delivered here. Jordan, you said you'd have probably been watching this anyway. Did you enjoy hanging out with your friends and watching this?
Yeah, this was totally cool. I did not expect a week ago to be doing any kind of watch along or Twitch stream for that matter. And when you asked if I want to do this post show, I guess we would call it, here on the upNXT podcast network. If you're not a Patreon, you should become one, by the way. Davie and Braden, they work very hard and they do, they're really good at this. I now have witnessed Davie do the work, and this wasn't meant to just put you over, but you deserve it, because I've seen the work and the effort and the talent that it takes tonight being on this side of the Zoom chat, and it's really impressive. I had fun with you guys. I think it's a testament to you, Davie, and Braden, and you, John, as well, to have dozens of people show up in the Twitch stream and not leave. In fact, the numbers kept going up throughout. People are still commenting. We're, like 4 hours plus into a Twitch stream, and there's still a lot of activity there. So if you're listening to this and you're not part of this community, 2020 community is key. Especially with us being indoors. This is a really cool community. So I really appreciate you including me in this community, Davie, and I had a great time. And I'm glad TLC was the show tonight, because that whatever we watched last weekend, this was a bit better.
Siino, any final thoughts on the pay-per-view as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Jordan, for all your very kind words. I appreciate it. Please come back. I feel like your presence here is very appreciated. I feel like the Twitch chat, my personal feeling, and I'm sure Davey and Frayden as well, love to have you here with a little ding, with a little piano xylophone. Hit me with it. There we go. It was great. The show was great. I mean, even if you watch this show without watching Raw or SmackDown, I feel like you can appreciate it. It's straight wrestling. There's no silly segments. There's no like disqualification.
We just saw a guy set on fire.
I mean, yeah, besides that, you still have like your actual finishes, quote unquote, to a match. Finales in a way. It's not like Raw or SmackDown where it's like you go to commercial and you come back and you don't know what's going on and there's a DQ finish or whatever. So I feel like it's a little bit more finale. You can watch this and not having to worry about watching Raw or SmackDown. So I highly enjoyed it. It was 4 hours straight of wrestling, quote unquote. And I had fun. You know, the Twitch chat was fire, as Frank says, and it just kept on moving, which is something that can't be said for every show that we see nowadays. So, yeah, WWE, I mean, I have to say this. I mean, you can agree with me or not, but their pay-per-views have been pretty consistent. Since March, April, whenever they started with the empty arenas, they have done a really good job keeping your attention, at least with the pay-per-view aspect of it.
Jordan, what have you got coming up? Any unnecessary conversations? Where can we find you if we want some more Jordan Goodman, Jordan Beatwell?
Glad you asked, Davie Portman. This Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Unnecessary Conversations Christmas Potluck Miracle at Jordan Beatwell on Instagram. We go live, and it's going to be past guests from the past 27 or so weeks on Unnecessary Conversations, and we're going to do a check-in with many guests. The first time we have done that on Unnecessary Conversations. I did a few dozen episodes of the Chocolate Croissants podcast earlier this year. It was one of the first things myself, my brother, and our good friend and talented drummer Matt Halpern did in response to the pandemic. Wei Ting was one of those guests. So chocolatecroissants.com or search Chocolate Croissants in your podcast app. And then I'm not going to say too much, but you'll probably hear my voice and perhaps see my face a bit more in the post-wrestling universe in 2021.
And if we want to find you on Twitter or Instagram, how do we do that?
At Jordan Beatwell. Love to see you there, folks.
Lovely. And Siino, once again, thank you for all the work you do for us. Shot in the dark, keeping us updated with all those shows that we don't watch. What have you got coming out? I believe you just recorded a Christmas special of Zombipod today.
Yeah, absolutely. Zombipod every Tuesday. Get a new episode. This coming week, actually, I have 2 episodes. One on our regular Tuesday and one on Christmas itself. We have a little Christmas special talking about Christmas horror movies that we have seen, that you might not have seen, that you want to go out and check out. Shout out to Jordan Goodman. I love his Unnecessary Conversations. I listened to the one with Way, with Davey, with Braden, and the one that just came out with Scrump. I want to throw my hat in there as maybe a possible guest in 2021. Keep my fingers crossed. That'd be great. But yeah, Shot in the Dark every Wednesday morning or afternoon on patreon.com/upnext podcast, where you can see or hear about your shows that you don't want to watch. But some things may happen on 205 Live or NXT UK or AEW Dark. 15 minutes, just give me 15 minutes of your time, and I'm sure to entertain you with some things that might interest you.
And where can we find you, Siino?
Twitter.com/Cno Evil, Cno Evil, on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, OnlyFans, whatever you want to use. You can find me on there. I'm not on OnlyFans, but maybe I will be. But yeah, and on Zombipod, ZOMBIPOD, on all your podcast platforms, you can find that show as well.
And we have, obviously, so many more shows coming out. Braden and myself, we have just put out our review of Krampus from 2015, feeling all spooky and Christmassy. This week we have coming out Black Christmas from 1974, another Christmas horror film, and part 1 of our best match ever, 2020. We will be going down the matches from number 10 to number 6. You have just a few more hours to get in your votes. Go to the Facebook group, upNXT Podcast. That's the group. And go to our Patreon, patreon.com/upNXT, to send me your votes. Voting is closing very, very soon. And you can find me at Davie Portman and follow at Up Next podcast. That is it. That is it, guys. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Thank you for everyone who joined us tonight in the Twitch room. Thank you once again, John. Thank you once again, Jordan. We will be back in your ears very soon. We love you here. Good night. God bless. And it's lit. Ahoy!
First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you can never really know what's up next.